minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, X minus 1. Fire.
Lights out, everybody. The creaking door.
Dimension X.
Inner Sanctum Mystery.
X minus 1.
Dark fantasy.
Hello everyone, welcome to Sci-Fi and Horror, brought to you by Dwayne Old Time Radio. Sci-Fi and Horror features some of the best programs from the golden age of radio, including X-1, Orbiter X, Dimension X, it's a lot of X's, Lights Out, Ray Bradbury, Dark Fantasy, and many, many more. Before we start today's sci-fi and horror thriller, if you enjoy what I'm doing, let me ask you to subscribe to my channel. Subscribing is 100% free, and you will receive notifications on new posts. Lastly, if you have a moment, please write a short 1 or 2 sentence review or give a rating on your preferred podcast service. A positive review or rating would help me out a lot. And now, on to the show. April is here, and we're going to start April with CBS Radio Workshop, two episodes. The 14th episode, The Record Collectors, April 27th, 1956, and then the 15th episode, The Toledo War, May 4th, 1956.
Who played the rhythmic bones on Nora Bay's 1919 recording of The Village Vamp?
Aristotle Figg.
Any boob would know that.
CBS Radio, a division of the Columbia Broadcasting System, and its 217 affiliated stations present the CBS Radio Workshop, dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. Tonight we spin the hands of the clock backward into the fascinating past to bring you an unusual symposium of early American popular music, explored by the eminent Dr. Vincent Arbogast and Mr. Titus McFatridge, the record collectors. Our special guests will be the noted singer, Miss Margaret Whiting, composer-conductor, Mr. Lyn Murray, and a great voice from the past, Miss Margaret Young. And now here is our moderator, Mr. John Dehner.
Good evening. Some people collect stamps, seashells, or old coins. Others collect paintings, butterflies, or match covers. With us tonight are two gentlemen who collect old records. They are Dr. Vincent Arbogast and Mr. Titus McFatridge. To take them in alphabetical order, let's hear first from Dr. Arbogast. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Dehner, and friends out there in Radioland.
And Mrs. Tessie Dorblin in La Jolla.
Before we get to our records, I'd like to talk about what you two gentlemen do. I mean in the field of commerce as opposed to your hobby. Dr. Arbogast, you are a breeder of giant frogs, right?
Yes, Mother and I have a frog farm at Costa Mesa.
Dr. Arbogast, are you a real doctor?
Well, let me answer your question with a question, Mr. Dehner. Are frogs entitled to medical services?
If they're sick?
You would deny their medical service if they were well?
No, I didn't say that, Doctor. All I asked you was, are you a medical doctor?
No.
I see.
Well, one day several years ago, a mutinous assistant at the farm challenged one of my frog-feeding formulae. I told him, that formula, or pack your duds.
An ultimatum.
Pack your duds. He simpered. You're the doctor.
The weasel.
That's how you became Dr. Vincent Arbogast.
Yes.
Now, Mr. McFatridge, you, I believe, are engaged in the field of teratology, right?
Roger?
Roger?
Titus heard an aeronautus use that as a form of agreement.
Oh. Well, what is teratology, Mr. McFatridge?
The science of creating monsters.
Monsters?
I made a dilly for a Christmas parade in Muncie, Indiana, for a department store.
Well, what kind of monster was it? Specifically, I mean.
Well, sir, I took the body of a crocodile, the head of the bearded yak, and the wings of the condor. Beautiful. I felt I had something here that would frighten any child.
At a Christmas parade, is that what you wanted?
Yes.
Did it work?
No, there were no children to frighten. They had all fled in terror from the first exhibit in the parade, a monster 5 floats ahead.
What was that?
Well, sir, it was a man-like thing stuffed into a flaming red suit with a raging white beard. As it lashed its reindeer, it waved ferociously in all directions, shouting threats at the crowd. The children left.
Now, as I understand it, you two gentlemen plan to present tonight your views on American popular music. So, may we have your first recording, please?
It is the hit tune of 1923, Toot Toot Tootsie. It is sang by that very popular duo of vaudeville and records, Billy Murray and Ed Smalley.
And note the realistic train whistle interpolated into the rendition.
Yesterday I heard a lover sigh. A lover sigh. Goodbye. Said goodbye. Oh me, oh my. Oh me, oh my, oh. 7 times he got aboard his train. Aboard his train. And 7 times he hurried back to kiss his love again and tell her toot toot tootsie goodbye. Toot toot tootsie, don't cry. Please don't cry, little tootsie. The choo-choo train that takes me far away from you. No word can tell how sad it makes me. Kiss me, tootsie, and then do it over again. Kiss me again, sweet mama. Watch for the mail. I promise I'll never fail. You know if you don't get a letter, then you'll know I'm in jail. Toot 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 tootsie, don't cry. Toot toot tootsie, goodbye.
Toot Toot Tootsie, the 1923 hit sung by Billy Murray and Ed Smalley.
They don't make records like that these days, Mr. Dehner.
Dr. Arbogast, how long have you been collecting records?
30 years, 4 months, approximately.
And how many do you have, approximately?
Really, I wouldn't venture to say. I measure my collection by values far removed from consideration of mere number. Oh, let the banker count his money, let the farmer weigh his crops. But upon what adding machine, upon what scales can a collector measure the value of his treasure?
Well, Dr. Arbogast, how do you measure the value of the records in your collection?
I realized that everybody was collecting the records of artists who were so good that the public didn't appreciate them. But nobody was saving the records of the singers and musicians who were popular in their day. I determined to remedy that deplorable situation.
How?
I set out to acquire records that once sold by the millions. The records the general public paid its money for.
Well, now, do I understand you to say that there are no really great artists in your collection?
Not at all. It occasionally happens that a truly fine artist is acclaimed by the public as well as by the critics. In such a case, I would not let an artist's superior talent bar him from a place in my collection.
I see. Now let's hear from our other collector, Mr. Titus McFatridge.
The records in my collection, if laid side by side, would cover 2/3 of the space of a basketball court.
That's very interesting. How many records does that make?
I really haven't the slightest idea. I share Dr. Arbogast's views on the stupidity of counting the items in one's collection.
But how did you arrive at the figure of how much of a basketball court your records would cover if you don't know how many you have?
Empirically and incidentally.
Uh-huh.
At one time, I resided at the YMCA at Muncie, Indiana. I needed to catalog and sort out my records. Since my room was small, the secretary of the YMCA, Stanley Proctor by name, kindly gave me permission to spread out my records in the gym while the fellows on the team were in the showers. I noted that my records took up 2/3 of the basketball court. Now, those wishing to know exactly the number of records might write to the Muncie, Indiana YMCA for the dimensions of the court, and by the aid of simple arithmetic, compute the number of records I had at that time. Stanley Proctor, however, is no longer there. He was, I believe, transferred to Terre Haute in 1932.
Well, it doesn't matter, Mr.
Fort Wayne, not Terre Haute, pardon me.
Now, gentlemen, we move on to our first guest. Mr. Lyn Murray is a distinguished conductor in the field of popular music. His background might best be summed up by referring to his work on the hit parade with the excellent Lyn Murray choristers. For many years, Mr. Murray has brought Americans live, vibrant interpretations of their most popular ballads. Mr. Murray, it's a pleasure and privilege to have you here and to introduce you to my two colleagues, Dr. Arbogast and Mr. McFatridge.
How old are you?
Well, now, Dr. Arbogast, it's not necessary to...
A man's age is very necessary.
But
I have no objections to giving my age.
Oh, see, by the way, did you say Billy Murray?
Lyn, L-Y-N. I was born in 1909.
Oh. Well, that makes you, 46.
Gentlemen, please. I've just invited Mr. Murray to play his latest disc.
Disc, Mr. Dehner?
I didn't realize Mr. Murray was a member of the Olympic team.
No, disc, gentlemen, platter, wax, recording.
No wonder these modern musicologists can't produce decent renditions. And they don't even agree what to call them.
Gentlemen, please, courtesy at least. Now, Mr. Murray, would you give us the title of your latest record?
It's called He's Got Time, and the members of the cast are Jane Russell, Connie Haynes, and Beryl Davis.
Never heard of them.
Of course not.
Let's listen to Mr. Murray's record.
He's got time. He's got time. You may not walk his way today, but he's got time. Because his rainbow didn't get that bright overnight. His roses didn't get to flower in and out. His heaven didn't get that blues in a minute or two, so he's got time and he can't wait for you. He can't wait. You hesitate. You may not seek his love today, but he can wait to teach his little birdies how to tweet. Takes a week to teach his ivy how to climb. Takes some time and teaching sinners how to pray. Keeps him busy all day, but he's got time and he can't wait for you. He's got time. Took him time to make a shining rainbow. You may not walk. He's got time. His roses didn't get the flowers in and out. His heaven didn't get the blue in a minute or two. So he's got time and he can't wait for you. He's got time. He's got time. He's got time. He's got time. Lots of time.
Well, gentlemen, Mr. Lyn Murray's latest recording.
It's a pity to put those unsullied young ladies at such a disadvantage, recording under this electronic hodgepodge. Where is the surface noise? Where are those lived-with sounds?
Well, gentlemen, perhaps now the public can hear the music. Isn't that the general idea, Mr. Murray?
Yes, it is. We're constantly striving for better forms of reproduction, you know. Today, thanks to high fidelity...
High fidelity? Music for dogs.
I read just the other day of a basset hound who, upon hearing a rendition of the funeral march on his master's high-fidelity set, went out and cut his throat.
A crime against society.
These people should be reported to the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. That equipment...
Electrical equipment, blaring out noises all over the land. Soon we shall have a nation of deafened canines.
Man's best friend.
But, gentlemen, what did you think of Mr. Murray's record?
Sir, this is an electric recording, is it not?
Well, yes, Vincent. It isn't Mr. Murray's fault that the power is in the control room, you know.
Well, Dr. Arbogast, are you referring to what I understand was the acoustical or mechanical method?
The time-honored method, where the artist played or sang into the horn, and his true vibrations were directly stenciled onto the wax mother.
But that's one of the most primitive...
Primitive? Has anyone improved on the wheel?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Murray, for being with us and for bringing along your latest EP recording. He's got time.
EP, Mr. Dehner?
EP?
That means extended play, gentlemen. Surely you realize records come in various sizes and speeds.
Aha, oh yes, now we're at the heart of the matter.
There is only one size, Mr. Dehner, one speed.
Yes, 78 revolutions per minute, 10 inches in diameter. Although I have heard there is a small group of malcontents who are considering using 12-inch records.
Nothing will ever come of it. Nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Murray, for being our guest.
It was a pleasure, Mr. Dehner.
Good night. Gentlemen?
Good night, Mr. Murray.
Good night, Mr. Murphy.
Dr. Arbogast, you have a record, I believe.
This record dates back 33 years to 1919. It features one of the most popular feminine singers of that blessed era, the incomparable Miss Nora Bayes.
Nora Bayes.
Oh, very great artist. She introduced Shine On Harvest Moon, didn't she?
Yes, but this record at the time was a very topical number, dealing with the influence of the flickers upon everyday life. The motion pictures.
Yes, sir.
Well, many movies in that early day had a wicked woman of the world who had designs upon the noble hero. Now, these women were called vamps. Among them were, let me see, Theda Bara.
Nita Naldi, Jetta Goodall.
Never belabor a point, Mr. McFadden. This record is entitled The Village Vamp and shows the effect of this type of movie upon a simple country girl. The Village Vamp, as sung by Miss Nora Bayes.
Have you heard about Miss Sally Green? Sally Green, Sally Green. Back home she was called the village queen. Sally Green was queen. She took one trip to the city. Came back home, oh, what a pity. Now the folks call her the village vamp. She's a vamp. She wears high-heel shoes and fancy hose. She's a vamp, she's a vamp. Paints her face and powders up her nose. She's a vamp, she's a vamp. Folks all say down in the valley, look what Broadway did to Sally. Everywhere she goes, the roofs all say, hey, there goes the vamp. There goes the vamp.
What? Oh, my. It's wonderful, wonderful, beautiful.
Now, Mr. McFattridge, do you have any special information about this record we just played?
Well, sir, Aristotle Figg was to have played the rhythmic bones on that record date.
Was to have?
They wrote him out at the last minute.
Oh, it's too bad.
Well, Figg never wanted to play the bones anyway. He was a bass drummist at heart, played in the village band back in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. The bandmaster hated his superior talent and was always trying to find a way to get rid of him.
Did he find a way?
Please.
Oh, I beg pardon.
Aristotle Figg's son, Bonafide, dabbled in amateur chemistry. A wretched child, he also chewed bubble gum incessantly. At the Sunday school picnic, he turned up chewing and carrying some of his chemicals in a vacuum flask. He was drinking this mixture in between blowing gum bubbles and listening to the band.
The band was there, sir.
Young Figg didn't know it, but the chemicals he had mixed and was sampling were in just the correct proportions to form helium gas. He blew one monstrous bubble.
What happened?
He took off. There he was, hovering aloft.
Did he just float around aimlessly up there?
No. They shot him down over the bandstand. Oh. The minister, fortunately, had his slingshot with him.
Was the boy hurt?
No. He landed on his father's bass drum.
Pretty lucky, huh?
On the contrary, Mr. Dehner. The elder Figg was counting out an 18-bar rest, 3 bars before F in The Poet and Peasant, when boom-ti-boom landed his son. For that interruption, the bandmaster fired Aristotle Figg, who then developed his talent for the rhythmic bones and entered the popular music field.
Now, gentlemen, it's time to listen to the listener. And the letter box is open. I have one here from the South, Tampa, Florida, to be exact. A Mrs. J.R.W. She wants to know if it's true that a canary was once a featured soloist on an acoustical recording.
Yes, of course.
Vocalion
Yes.
B-147, starring the feathered songster Miss Lady Bird, formerly with the Ishpeming Mining Company.
Rescued from the mines by an alert Welsh bird lover.
The success of this record awakened the public to the plight of the unfortunate canary used against its will to test the air for poisonous gas.
Thus was founded in Sundown, Indiana, the SFTPOUCIMS, the Society for the Prevention of the Use of Canaries in Mine Shafts.
I see.
Meetings were held. Never let them take another canary down a mine shaft to test the purity of the air was the battle cry. They had, as a symbol of their crusade, a canary in a cage on a table on stage. After all, if it had been intended for birds to be under the damp ground, birds would have been born there.
But birds are not born under the ground.
But then miners were not...
Spread their wings, said Russell John, and give the canary the air. His audience loved his hatred of humans.
They just sat and puffed orgiastically on their pipes and cigars in high ecstasy. They'd be there today, I think, if that young ruffian hadn't been there.
Emma Shakespeare's son. He had an elastic band and a paperclip and a deadly aim. He shot the paperclip at the little canary on stage.
Oh, so that was quite a mean act. The bird was already unconscious as a result of all the cigar smoke in place.
The paperclip lodged in the bird's bill, startling him so that he bent the little bars of his cage and exit. Still half asleep, the bird didn't know where he was. He flew around the room, shaking his bill to get rid of the paperclip. When he finally did shake it loose, it fell into one of the chandelier's empty sockets.
What happened?
A short circuit. The place burned to the ground, and the people there were incensed. What they felt was an ungrateful canary. A wave of anti-canary feelings swept the town, destroying the society forever.
Well, we can file Mrs. J.R.W.'s letter as answered. Now, gentlemen, I understand your next record is a rare one.
Indeed it is, Mr. Dehner. It was recorded in 1922, and it features that beautiful and talented vaudeville headliner, Miss Margaret Young.
Margaret.
Careful, Titus. Its title is Way Down Yonder in New Orleans.
Way down yonder in New Orleans, in the land of dreamy scenes, there's a garden of Eden. That's what I mean. Creole babies with flashing eyes, softly whisper with tender sighs. Stop, or won't you give your lady fair a little smile? Stop, you bet your life you'll linger there a little while. There is heaven right here on earth with those beautiful queens way down yonder in New Orleans.
Way Down Yonder in New Orleans, featuring Miss Margaret Young. Now, gentlemen, I have a surprise for you. We have as our special guest this evening none other than Miss Margaret Young.
Oh, bravo.
Thank you, boys.
Maggie, we've been admirers of yours for many, many years. They just don't make records like that anymore.
They certainly don't.
Youngsters today have no appreciation for basic values. Maggie, how many copies of that recording were sold?
Oh, over 1 million.
There, you see?
But listen, I didn't come here to play my record. I came to introduce you to my niece. She's the singing star of our family now, and I thought you'd like to meet her and hear one of her records.
Well, if you insist.
Well, boys, just meet my talented niece, whose name is also Maggie.
How do you do?
How do you do?
What's your last name, young lady?
My full name is Margaret Whiting.
Whiting?
A whiting is a fish.
Will you walk a little faster, said the whiting to the snail? Lewis Carroll, Allison.
The Reverend William Dodson, nom de plume, Lewis Carroll.
Oh, thank you, Titus.
Gentlemen, I should think that you would be quite honored to have as your guest tonight one of America's most popular singers. Margaret Whiting is known from coast to coast. Her records have sold by the millions.
Name one.
Well, there's Come Rain or Come Shine. That one alone sold over 1 million copies.
And would you rank such a song in the same class with Out of a City of 10,000 People, Why Did You Pick on Me?
Oh, that was lovely. Yes, it was. But I remember it well.
That song sold over 1 million copies, Mr. Dehner.
Well, gentlemen, that was a little before my time. After all,
But she's right, Titus. She couldn't be expected to remember the classics. She's still young.
And we must keep in mind, after all, she is Maggie Young's niece.
Yes, that's a good point. Yes, of course. The young lady, we've decided to listen to your record, regardless of our personal feelings in the matter.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. The name of my record is I've Told Every Little Star. I've told every little star just how sweet I think you are. Why haven't I told you? I've told ripples in a brook, made my heart an open book. Why haven't I told you? Friends ask me, am I in love? I always answer yes. Might as well confess. If I don't, they guess. Maybe you may know it too. Oh, my darling, if you do, why haven't you told me? Friends ask me, am I in love? I always answer yes. Might as well confess. If I don't, they guess. Maybe you may know it too. Oh, my darling, if you do, why haven't you told me?
I've Told Every Little Star, by our guest, Miss Margaret Whiting. Well, gentlemen, what did you think? Gentlemen?
Well, perhaps you could tell us something about the record, Miss Whiting.
Well, I'd be delighted. See, it's from a recent LP album I recorded for Capitol.
LP? First it's EP, and now it's LP.
One must need a code book just to talk to you people.
LP means long playing, approximately 20 minutes on each side of the record.
Perhaps for people with long ears, huh, Vincent?
Oh, that's very good. Oh, that's very good, yes.
Gentlemen, of course, Margaret Whiting...
A Whiting can't hold a candle to a sardine.
Indeed not. I recall one dinner back in 1907, Vincent, in Kansas City.
Miss Whiting, we appreciate your dropping by.
Well, the pleasure was all mine. Good night, Dr. Arbogast, Mr. McFatridge.
The oysters were perfectly dreadful, but the sardines, I recall a young man I met that evening.
Gentlemen, we are discussing recordings.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, the last recording was Way Down Yonder in New Orleans.
Well, no, we just played her niece's, Margaret.
Way Down Yonder in New Orleans. Most unusual. Most unusual.
Will you have some information on that record?
Yes. Pesag Gaskell, I think, played clarinet on that one. Do you mind Pesag, Vincent?
Oh, yes, I mind Pesag Gaskell well. Good clarinetist. He was a channel swimmer, too.
A channel swimmer?
The best.
There was a champion. Pesag never used grease. He used to flex his little muscles and say proudly, "What's good enough for the blue whale is good enough for me."
Well, gentlemen, our time is up.
Pesag Gaskell was an excellent channel swimmer, and at the drop of a towel he would plunge into empty water that even resembled a channel.
He was once compared favorably with the lemming.
Well, that's it, gentlemen. Our time is up. Now say good night to our listeners.
Good night, friends, out there in Radio Land.
And Mrs. Carrie Moomaw in the Needles Public Library.
By the magic of electronic recording, we have brought you the views of two men, Dr. Vincent Arbogast and Mr. Titus McFatridge, the record collectors. Their guests were Mr. Lyn Murray, noted composer and conductor, the popular singing star Miss Margaret Whiting, and Miss Maggie Young. This is John Dehner saying good night.
The CBS Radio Workshop is produced and directed in Hollywood by William Frug. The Record Collectors was written by William Woodson, Lou Houston, and Larry Thor. Howard McNear was Dr. Arbogast, and Lou Houston was Mr. McFatridge. The moderator was John Dehner. Next week, a new and unusual musical presentation, an original one-act opera for radio composed and conducted by David Brookman, based on the first war between the states, the story of the battle between Michigan and Ohio over the city of Toledo, told in music and presented on the CBS Radio Workshop.
Some letters tied with glue, a photograph or two. I see a roll from you among my souvenirs. A few more tokens dressed within my treasure chest, and though they do their best to give a consolation, I count them all apart, and as the teardrops start, I find a broken heart among my souvenirs.
A man is now alive who saw the dreadful Dino, but back in 1835, in history you may read, Ohio fought with Michigan. They fought as hard as two states can to prove which was the better man, and prove just how their border ran, and where the rights of each began, and which would have Toledo.
The CBS Radio Workshop, dedicated to man's imagination, the theater of the mind. Tonight, the Toledo War, a new opera performed for the first time, with words by Edward Eager and music composed and conducted by David Brookman. It was in 1835, when Michigan was still a territory, that the young governor, Stevens Thompson Mason, claimed that a strip of land, including the town of Toledo, rightfully belonged to Michigan. But some people in Ohio thought differently, and so it was war, the first war between the states. Exactly what happened isn't too clear, but it might have been something like this.
Just tell the storm and strife, oh good, we're here to show you, and you will have to take our word that all we say is true.
Hard by Lake Erie's fearful foam, the shot began to fly, We take you to the happy home of Federal Judge Phineas Fustian and his wife Vermelia Fustian and his daughter Annabelle Fustian
of Toledo, Ohio.
Stirring news of war assails our ear, according to the latest thing we hear. The men of Michigan have made complaint. Our town is in their state. We say it ain't. So now with savage skill and aim adroit, they're planning to invade us from Detroit. To Stinkney, are you ready to go forth and guard us from these vandals of the north, and battle to the joy of all bystanders to keep our city safe from Michiganders? Have you your forces ready?
Well, I've tried. My brothers were the only ones who came. But we will guard you safely all the same. They're waiting just outside the door. My brother 1, my brother 3, my brother 4.
Good evening, 1.
I'm 3.
Oh, I see.
My father was a military man, and he named us by a military plan. And he formed us in a group, and he trained us in a troop to be as military as we can.
We're the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sing me, brothers.
We've been looking all our lives for an enemy.
Any enemy.
Any enemy.
Anyone with whom we don't agree.
Don't agree. Don't agree.
And should any sneak and spy come here to peek and pry, we'll hit him in the eye and sit around and watch him die, just to show Ohio that Ohio can rely.
On the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who are we for? Ohio is who we be for.
Cousin Isabel. How sad, cousin, that you missed Two's triumphant departure. It was truly inspiring. Do you love him, cousin? I do more. I honor him as champion of our state. And surely when he is victorious, the governor will grant him a handsome commission, and I shall be an officer's bride. Oh, few men are as plain as two, and much more brawn than brain as two. By some he might be called fat too. His hair is growing bald. That's too. But when the battle's din is through, then wealth and fame he'll win will too. And when I am his wife, I'll lead a rich full life. We two, my two and me too.
Put out the light.
I'll bring the night. Good night. Now I am alone. My secret I'll relate. I love a man from an enemy state. I try to forget him, but how can I forget the kiss he gave me the day we met, and the words he said that I dream of yet? By the shore of the muddy Marie, under the shade of a shad blue tree, on April the 10th at 2:45, I stood in the arms of somebody. and he promised his love would be strong as the earth and deep as the sea and fair as the bloom on the shadblow tree and lost as long as the money money. Clear through my husband's snoring drone, I heard a melody. Who could it be? Who could it be? And where I lay in bed alone, I heard a melody. Who could it be? Not distinctly. And in a voice that I've well known, a charming lyric baritone, I heard a melody, and it is he. It's my beloved enemy. It cannot be he sings for me. My time for serenades is gone, and yet how bittersweet would be if I could still reprise just one. Cannot be he sings to me. My troth is plighted to my two, and yet how pleasant it might be if I could flirt with this one too. I know it's he sings to me with waking heart. I wonder why he has appeared so stealthily. Oh, can it be that he's a spy? What shall we do? I can't decide to run and hide or open wide. It's cold outside. Then I think we're justified. To be a faithful wife I've tried. I'll try to when I'm a bride. And up to now I've never spied. But when it is so cold outside, but when it is so cold outside, but when it is so cold outside, I think we're justified.
Good evening.
A stranger. Do we know you, sir?
Alas, no.
But...
Hush, not a word. Forgive me. I lost my way, and having my mandolin with me, improvised a serenade to warm my fingers. They're warmer now.
Oh, sir, oh, sir.
And now that I meet with such charm and beauty, too, I can only repeat every word I sang was true.
Well, really?
Hush. Be careful.
Sir, I'm a married lady. I am an engaged young lady. And yet. Bethink me, brothers. If you are recognized, you will be killed and will be compromised.
Where can I hide?
Under there.
Where?
There, get inside. Quick, move the chair. I see his hair. There.
We seen a man from Michigan, but then he ran. You seen a man As quiet as a mouse we saw him creeping. We'd better search the house.
No, my uncle's sleeping. How did you know he was from Michigan? Did he wear a uniform?
No, that's so. He didn't wear a uniform.
It would be just like them dirty Michiganders not to wear a uniform.
It would, that's good. Them dirty brutes wear business suits.
Oh, dear Toad, how can you think that I would hide a spy?
No.
Go.
Oh.
It is safe now. You may emerge.
How can I thank you?
It was nothing. And now you must be weary from your exertion. Girls, some refreshment for the gentlemen. The cold roast lamb, a slice of ham, the cider cool, and gooseberry full and cream. Wait! When the state you love is at war, and a stranger comes to your door, how can you feed him your gooseberry full and cream? Suppose he is a spy, come here to lurk and scheme.
Hush! What are you saying?
Well, suppose he is a spy, what then? War is the concern of men. And when the stranger has such manly grace, such a lofty mind, such a noble face, supposing it were so, I'd rather never know and think of him as though he were a lovely dream. Well, I can only say I consider your behavior hypocritical in the extreme.
What is that voice of thunder?
My husband, my father.
Should I surrender?
No, get back under.
What does this mean? The hour is late and all the house is aglow.
We weren't sleepy.
Gooseberry fool on the parlor table. Suppose the neighbors should know.
We were hungry.
You must curb this tendency to madcap frolic. Often I've told you so.
Yes, I know. Yes, we know.
Law and order. Status quo.
I know.
Put out the light.
I'll bring the light. Come out now. It's all right. I'd like to stay and talk if things could be as they might. But since they aren't quite, I'd better say good night.
Good night.
Good appetite. I'll bring the light. Well, really, such hypocrisy. They pretend to be for Ohio. Then all for the sake of a handsome face, they entertain a spy. Oh!
What about you, my dear?
I'm not your dear. I look on you with loathing, you sneaking Wolverine in buck-eye clothing. I knew you were a spy, but I thought you'd spy with candor, not stoop to lie and flirt and philander.
But a spy must lie.
I don't see why.
Nathan Hale and I could tell you that a spy must learn to lie and lie if he'd be a good spy.
Well, of course, that's different. If it's true what you say, I'm learning something new every day. My uncle convinced me to fight for my state, but now my state is Michigan, the state of my mate. So now I'm a spy, and I think if I try, I can learn to lie and be a good spy. But how did you come here, and what is the occasion?
I came from Detroit with a party of invasion. We planned to make for the courthouse with a speedo, to draw up a deed or to claim Toledo. But the night it was dark and the way it was tricky. I got lost in the swamp, and the swamp it was sticky, and I couldn't find the courthouse for my knowledge it was scanty. So I finally came to this house of your auntie.
But this is the courthouse, my uncle holds court session, right here in the parlor every Friday.
The 9 points of the law I've won, for I am in possession without having hardly tried it.
There's paper in the desk, and quills and ink.
Toledo will be Michigan as quick as a wink. Now to draw up the deeds and writs.
Order in the court sits.
It's done.
It's done.
It's done.
It's done.
We've won.
We've won.
We've won.
We've won.
Strange as it may seem, we've worked on a scheme, so now let's have some gooseberry fool and cream. Delicious.
Sweetheart.
Darling, you eat part.
Thank you.
My dear.
I see him. He's in there. Up with your hands and stand where you are. Bring thongs of leather and feathers and tar. Ride him on a rail and in the jailhouse land him.
Away, unhand me.
Away, unhand him.
On Gallows Hill we'll hang you high.
Why?
Don't ask why, for you know the reason. You're a spy, and you're guilty of treason.
I'm a spy.
So am I.
But my ethics don't forbid it.
For his ideas are high.
It is for my state I did it.
Me, oh mine, boy, this glamour so alarming.
He's a spy.
But he's so young and charming.
What's amiss, what's awry, what's the noise and what's the riot?
He's a spy. Take him out and hang him high.
Will you shoot him or shall I?
He's a spy.
Quiet! You have no right to seize me, for from this date, Toledo is no longer even in your state. Read this paper. Heaven forbid. Niece, you signed this?
Yes, I did.
You are guilty of fraud, impersonating an officer, and contempt.
Not at all, I am exempt. You told me states' rights are the highest rights.
Sustained.
And that's when I decided to join the fight.
sustained.
But I am a citizen of the state of Michigan. I am secretly married to this gentleman.
Isabel, I am pained.
But you don't know him. Oh, can this be? I do too. We met last April at a Sunday school picnic in Malby. I love him, I adore him, I really adore him.
You thou told a cordon to wed this cockalorum. But though we deplore him, we still can't ignore him. For two may be company, but it isn't a quorum.
It isn't a quorum, it isn't a quorum.
It isn't a quorum. We're still in Ohio, it's all hunky-dorum.
I said open forum, we did have a quorum. Toledo's in Michigan. Toledo's in Ohio, Toledo's in Ohio. You'll make your wish and wish again. You'd never been a spy-o. We'll hang you up high-o and leave you to dry-o. Stop there or you die-o. Come quick, let us fly-o. And we'll goodbye-o. We'll go get our army and battle with Ohio. Goodbye-o, goodbye. We'd like to see you try-o. Just try-o, just try.
Goodbye, 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 goodbye.
Who knocks? Who knocks? At such an hour unorthodox, when 10 is striking on the clocks. Who knocks? Who knocks? Unlock the locks. Let's see who knocks. Special message from President Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson? In the interest of national unity, the President decrees that this community, up to now in a state of ambiguity, shall be in Ohio for perpetuity.
Oh, joy!
Toledo is in Ohio. So now you know. Sadly, I bow to the President's order. I linger no longer south of the border. Come home with me, Isabel, and find safe harbor, and live happy ever after in Ann Arbor.
No, I object.
Objection overruled.
Don't we get to shoot nobody? The battle had a happy end the same night it began, and each man was each other's friend by President Jackson's plan. So let's be glad it turned out right, as battles seldom can. And let's be happy that tonight, though years and years have passed in flight, Toledo still is shining bright. Wheels are turning left and right, and champions Sparkplug and Willis Knight, and Mather Spring, and Autolite are in Ohio. But they might have been in Michigan.
Tonight, the CBS Radio Workshop has presented The Toledo War, a parlor piece for music, with words by Edward Eager and music composed and conducted by David Brookman. The cast included Arthur Newman as Judge Phineas Fustian, Jean Hanslick as his wife, Lois Winter as Annabelle, Shirley Emmons as Isabel, Peyton Higginson as the hero, and Mike Pollock as Stinkney II. Others included John Wilson, Jack Brown, and Bill Marine. The CBS Radio Workshop is produced in New York by Paul Roberts. This is Bob Hite inviting you to join us again next week when we present When He Shall Appear. This is the CBS Radio Network.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy what I'm doing, I ask you to please subscribe to my channel or channels. Well, hope you enjoyed, and until next time, stay safe, wish you well, peace.